Sometimes when you go on expeditions, you find artifacts, and those artifacts belong in a museum. So let's take a look at them.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and a little known fact about me, especially on this channel, I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. I've hardly ever talked about it on the channel itself, I think outside of like the recent 4K Blu-ray set. The thing is that Indiana Jones as a franchise has existed for over 40 years at this point, but because of the nature of the media output of it just being, 4 movies with an upcoming 5th one, and a TV show spin-off, and some little minor things here and there in terms of video games, in terms of merchandise and things that would actually cover on this channel, it's not a whole lot. In fact, outside of the Blu-rays recently, there hasn't been anything practically since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out in 2008. And in terms of toys, we're still waiting for Hasbro to take over the license in 2023 to bring Indiana Jones back into the toy shelves, at least to promote the next Indiana Jones film, which may be the last Indiana Jones film, so we'll see how that all works out. But I'm excited to see what they do. I liked what they had when they did the Crystal Skull line, but it died off too quickly to be anything meaningful, so maybe this time will be the charm. But in terms of actual merchandise, there is something that came out recently. So because Disney is producing a 5th Indiana Jones movie, and because Disney has a ride at Disneyland and a stunt show at Disney World in the US, there was a need for merchandise. Because I've noticed this, especially when I've gone to the parks, it's hard to find any Indiana Jones merch. It's very minimal, which is surprising when Disneyland has the fanciest, craziest ride dedicated to these movies that doesn't work as well as it did 25 years ago. But in terms of actual merchandise, there's hardly any, even though that ride always demands a high wait time. So it's kind of weird. But because of the 40th anniversary of Raiders of the Lost Ark last year, Disney released a special release of the Fertility Idol from Raiders. And that was the first thing that got me to go, oh hey, Disney's doing merchandise? And I snapped that thing up in the 5 minutes it was available on shopdisney.com. Now, flash forward a year later, they finally announced that there would be more in this Artifacts series. For example, the Sankara Stone, the Holy Grail, and the Crystal Skull. So I thought today we should look at all 4 of these since they all arrived at my house. In terms of availability for these, I did mention that they are sold at Disney parks, but they're also sold on shopdisney.com. So check a look there. Sometimes they sell out and they come back. For example, I think the Fertility Idol sold out a second time. That one's the most popular. But in terms of the others, they're typically available. So just keep checking around Shop Disney for Indiana Jones stuff. And supposedly we're also getting more of these in the future with a Staff of Ra headpiece as well as a Temple of Doom voodoo doll. Pretty cool stuff. So in terms of Indiana Jones, this is kind of a tester to see if anyone out there wants to see me cover these things, because I'm certainly buying them. And I thought, why not make a fun little video out of this? So we're gonna look through them in the release order / also the movie order and see what these artifacts look like and if they're gonna be worth the price they demand. So first up, we have the Fertility Idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark from that famous opening sequence of Indy in the temple. Very iconic prop. Also kind of funny that Disney does sell a product labeled Fertility Idol. I love it. I think it's hilarious. It's just, you know what? Sometimes Disney does purchase things and doesn't quite know what they got into. But Fertility Idol here, looking cool. I like the crate design on these boxes. There's a bunch of little Easter eggs on the side here, like Temple of the Crystal Skull, obviously being the Temple of the Crystal Skull from King of the Crystal Skull. This Live for Adventure, Fortune, and Glory logo of the airplane is something from the films as well. On the back, you got Top Secret Army Intel 198184889. I'm not exactly sure what the significance of that number is. Do not open. We're going to open anyways. We got Temple du Perel, which is another temple name, and Epic Stunt Spectacular, Florida, USA. This is a funny little thing because you can hardly see it. It's really... They did a good job with the graphic design here. Epic Stunt Spectacular is the Indiana Jones stunt show at Hollywood Studios in Disney World. It's kind of funny, they literally put Epic Stunt Spectacular. It doesn't fit the other details, probably why they put it more faded. On the back, we got another one of these little logos. It says trusted since 1935. And then my favorite one, where it says Departed, Temple of the Forbidden Eye, California, USA. That is the Indiana Jones adventure ride in Disneyland, also known as Indiana Jones and the Temple of Forbidden Eye. Love that ride, even if it is mostly broken these days. But If you ever watch videos of when that ride first opened, it's spectacular. More recent videos, it's got problems. The last time I was on it, it stopped about 10 times. Anyways, pulling this sleeve off here, we can see the lovely Fertility Idol. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but iconic nonetheless. Here's that Indiana Jones render we've seen on a bunch of stuff, including the Blu-ray set, the recent 4K. Map of the world. Back on the box, same render on this side. On the back of the box, we do have a picture of the Fertility Idol, as well as a description. And this description is pretty cool. I got Raiders of the Lost Ark begins with Indiana Jones retrieving a famous golden idol in the temple of the Chacapocan warriors, named for the Chacapoas, a civilization that really did exist in the cloud forest of the Amazonas region of what is now Peru. In the practice of religion, an idol is an image of a deity or god. The Fertility Idol used in the movie was inspired by an artifact in the Dumbarton Oaks Museum, a statuette thought to represent the Aztec goddess Quetzalcoatl. The goddess is depicted in the act of giving birth giving birth as an explicated representation uncommon in our present archaeological record. In fact, recent scientific analysis revealed that the Dumbarton Oaks statuette to be a 19th century fake. To date, one of the only real examples of a fertility goddess giving birth is a baked clay figurine made some 8,000 years ago and found on a site in present-day Turkey. This is the most informative bio I think I've ever read on one of my videos, because it not only is just telling you, oh, hey, it's from that scene. Yeah, we know, that's why we're buying it. But it gives you kind of the history of what they designed the prop around and the actual like real-world history connections. And that is super awesome. But of course, we should open this up. So here is the Fertility Idol. This thing is pretty impressive looking. It's, of course, they've really chromed it out. If we compare it to a image of the original prop, you can see that the original prop was a lot duller. It wasn't so reflective, and that's just the nature of film props. But in terms of actual like design, it looks pretty spot on. There is, you know, not necessarily it's like 100%. This is a mass market version. I mean, mass market in the sense that it's sold through Disney. But you can see on the bottom, you've got kind of this base that kind of keeps it more supported. The biggest difference I noticed is that there is more of a sort of stand design rolled into it. That way you kind of get more support so that this thing stays on a shelf. And I do like the padding on the bottom with the copyright information, because that means when you do have this on a shelf, it's going to look good. It's going to look like it. Now, while I think that, you know, it comes to, is it an exact prop replica? You know, is it perfect? I don't know. But in terms of what we got here, I'm pretty happy with it. It is made of solid cast resin, so it's really heavy. Definitely heavier than most bags of sand. But in terms of, you know, just holding it, it works pretty good. It works pretty good. Now, I'm worried about, you know, fingerprints and dust on this. I haven't gotten a display case for it. You can see there's some markings already. You can see my face there. This is just from the production. I barely had this thing on display, even though I've had it half a year or almost a year now. But it is beautiful. It is quite gorgeous, and I think it does make a good display piece. Now, you know, there are people who make replicas of props and probably would do a better job, but those are going to be more custom made. So I think in terms of a more mass-produced item for Disney Parks for Shop Disney, this works pretty good, and the price isn't too bad. It ran $130, which, while that seems like a lot at first, the size of this thing is pretty impressive. Like, you can kind of see, you know, they were carrying it around in the movie kind of like this, and it's got that right size. So it is the proper size. It looks right. And I think for most people, including myself, this is going to make a nice replica of the Fertility Idol. While it may not be one-to-one in terms of detail and design, and that's the case with all of these, I'm pretty happy with it, and that's kind of what matters at the end of the day. So next up we have the Sankara Stone from Temple of Doom. Now, Sankara Stone, this is going to be just one of them. It's not a set, but that's fine. Same kind of logos and design. It's even the same number. They basically just replicated the other three sides of this from the Fertility Idol. But taking a look at the inner box, you can see we got the Sankara Stone with light effect. And that is what's really cool about this, is it does have a light up effect. Similar box design. This one, you know, does have battery information on the bottom. That is a slight difference. But on the back, we got the little bio thing here, which says, Sankara Stone light effect. In Temple of Doom, Mayapur's shaman begs Indy to find the Sankara Stone, a fertility symbol with the god Shiva that was stolen along with the village by the Thuggies. So here's the thing. What is with fertility items? being constantly stolen in this world. Anyways, Shiva is a major Hindu deity, often represented seated in a deep meditation or dancing a sacred dance in order to destroy a weary universe and start the process of creation. Shiva is known as a great asect and the god of destruction and regeneration. The film's Sankara stones are fictional examples of Shiva Linga. Shiva Lingam is an abstract representation of the god, usually in the form of a short cylindrical stone. Worshippers believe the god's presence is inside the stone. Sankara, the namesake of the stones in the film, was an Indian philosopher who lived between 788 and 820 AD. He was a spiritual guide for followers who thinks Shiva to be the supreme being above all Hindu gods. So pretty cool. Again, I love the historical context for these props more than just, oh hey, here it was in the movie. Because yeah, we know, that's why we're buying it. So here we have the Sankara Stone. Now this one is specifically supposed to be the one that was taken from the village, taken to the temple. There were 3 of them in the film, 5 of them in total in the mythology, but this is the one that Indy was most focused on getting because of the people of the village. So here's a comparison to basically the other stones. It's hard to pick them out. They are uniquely designed in the film, so it is kind of cool that we do have one of them. And in terms of unique design, this thing's pretty cool. It's a resin cast, so we got clear resin on top of an inner section. So you can see that there actually is a lot of depth to it. It's something that, it has a good weight to it, but it's not super heavy. It's definitely lighter than the Idol. And it looks really nice. I love the way the cracks have been designed into it, because it looks very realistic, although, it is supposed to be, a fictionalized item. But I do like how you have the scarring and it is indented. It's not just, oh, hey, we, put some lines in. These are actually etched into the design, which is quite amazing. And then there's a lot of good paintwork on the inside to make it really work. Now, of course, there is the light effect, which I think is the most impressive part. So on the bottom here, we got this little door. It's magnet clasped. I really like that fact because now you got this nice clean base and then you can pull this off. It does take 2 AA's. It does include them. You can see there, it does include 2 AA's. This whole setup reminds me of like Halloween decorations, but it's a lot cooler than that. So we flip the switch on, we'll put this back on, and you notice the light doesn't come on right away. And that's because you got to go around to this side, and you got to hold the stone to get it to light up. I don't know if it's heat reactive or light sensitive or something, but you can get the stone to light up by holding it, which fits Indy in the film because, they would glow as part of the adventure. And then you hold it again in that same spot. There used to be a sticker on there that would tell you. I took it off. But once you push it again, it glows down. Now, of course, it's hard to see with my very bright lights, so let's turn the lights down and see the glow effect. So now that we're in low lighting, let's take a look and see that glow. Very nice orange light. Very cool. I really do love the way this looks. It's kind of fun to hold, because you kind of got this glowing object in your hand. Makes a nice flashlight if you're lost in the dark in the middle of the night. Really cool stuff. This is honestly probably one of the most fun of these because of the light up effect and because you don't have to do anything besides you can just pick it up and hold it and, oh, it lights up. It's got that cool kind of magic effect to it. Now, the Sankara Stone retailed for $80. While that does seem like, a little expensive, again, it's going to be Disney Parks item plus plop replica. But, for the light effect and everything, it's honestly not too bad. Especially when compared to the price of the Fertility Idol, it's right in line with the sort of price scaling of this lineup. And overall, I think it's pretty cool. Artifact number 3, the Holy Grail from The Last Crusade. Once again, the outer slip, about the same. This one is much smaller box-wise than the others because the actual internal item isn't as complicated. So this is essentially just the Holy Grail from Last Crusade. I think it should have said on the box, you chose wisely to purchase this. But anyway, sorry. I love these movies too much. So you can see the Holy Grail picture there, which we will compare to the final in a bit. The back of this, we've got, we got a quote here. The Holy Grail, Dr. Jones, the chalice used by Jesus Christ during the Last Supper and the cup that caught his blood at the crucifixion was entrusted to Joseph of Arimathea. And thus begins Indy's search for the Holy Grail and his father in the Last Crusade. Belief in the Grail and the interest in its potential whereabouts has long fascinated mankind. Legend has it that drinking from the Grail grants eternal life, a possibility so tantalizing that the expression search for the Holy Grail is often used in our everyday vernacular as a metaphor for epic quest. Toy collectors, you know exactly what that means. We all do that. The concept of the Holy Grail is informed by Christian tradition, but not explicitly found in Christian texts. The first mention of the Grail is found in a poem written 800 years ago, describing a beautiful young girl bearing an elaborately decorated bowl. So yeah, and you can see the paint detail here. Yeah, we're going to take a look at some of the things about the Holy Grail. So here is the Holy Grail itself. Once again, we're going to do comparisons to the original prop. Now, the original prop had a lot more wear and tear to it. This one's a little too perfect, but the thing is outside of like hand wearing and tearing this, I don't really know how they could have produced it any better. So I'll give them a little bit of slack there. I think it looks almost a little too perfect compared to the one in the film. But in terms of looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, that's the Holy Grail from Last Crusade. It is a pottery style, so you do have, it's literally ceramics. It's got the hole in it and everything for casting. That's where all the stuff is there. Not for food use. Food consumed from this vessel may be harmful. Is that a joke or, just legal text? But that's kind of funny, considering that, this was supposed to be the true Holy Grail, but if you drank from the wrong Holy Grail, you would, burst into flames and such. Anyways, this looks pretty nice from the outside. I think the interior is gorgeous. That is honestly some really nice gold paint. But yeah, in terms of paint detail, I think they could have gone a little bit more hardcore on it. And I was noticing this too, compared to the final product, the actual product image here, the actual like yoke of it is a bit wider, and a lot of the paint detail is a lot sharper. This is a little bit lighter, and I wonder if this is just, here's the prototype that they designed up, and then when they actually went to production, it had to, sort of tone down a little bit, or else production would have taken even longer. So, it's kind of like, it's good representation. I think it's just like, with all of these, it's going to look good on a shelf if you're going for props, but if you're looking for that exact replica detail, you're going to need something custom made. This did retail for $50, which I think isn't too bad, again, considering the price of the rest of the line, and also considering the price of Disney Parks merchandise in general. $50 is not too bad, and it honestly makes a nice piece to go alongside the other artifacts. And if you're wanting just the Holy Grail from Last Crusade, I mean, this is your easiest to get version of it. And, it kind of even looks better than the original prop. And that's the case with a lot of prop replicas. And I don't mind it too much. Now we've come to the big boy, the Crystal Skull from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Not anyone's favorite Indiana Jones movie by any means. And if it is, tell me in the comments right now. I would love to know if it's your favorite. I don't mind the movie. I actually have come to enjoy it. I think at first I was a little bit disappointed in it when I first saw it, but over the years I've really come to like the film. And I understand, because Spielberg and Lucas, when they did Indiana Jones, were doing like, hey, look, we're doing adventure movies again, like classic style adventure movies. But, it took place in the 30s, and they're like, okay, well, what was the popular movies of the 50s? And it was crazy B-movie sci-fi. Hence why we got Crystal Skulls and Aliens. But anyways, this thing looks pretty cool. It's the same box design that we've been looking at. But this is specifically the Crystal Skull that was being, fought over and carried in the film, as opposed to any of the other 12 in the temple. But in terms of, the one they were looking for, this is the one. On the back here, we've got here the nice little Crystal Skull bio, which again starts with a quote. I kind of like that this one and the Holy Grail have quotes to them. That just kind of adds to the, sense of the film. The legend says that the Crystal Skull was stolen from Akator in the 15th or 16th century, and that whoever returns the skull to the city temple will be given control over its powers. In Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the character Irin Espalco, who's played by Cate Blanchett, would beg to differ, as she believes the skull has extraterrestrial origins and possesses psychic powers. Interdimensional beings are one possible explanation, but an archaeologist might look elsewhere first. To begin with, why might the skull have such an unusual shape? Anthropological studies of real skulls found on Mayan archaeological sites confirm the practice of head shaping. In fact, head shaping of human skulls is a widely spread practice among several cultures, going back to the time of the Neanderthals in 5000 BC. So hey, there's your explanation for real-world context on this crazy design. But yeah, we're going to take a look at this because you can tell it's much larger than the others. Here is the Crystal Skull. I think this is probably the most impressive and honestly probably the coolest out of all of them. I love the design of this. We're going to compare it to the actual film prop here, side by side. The film prop seems to have like kind of an open jaw sort of sensation, while this is a closed jaw, and I think that was definitely a production thing. Because if you have the open jaw and you go to set this down, you could possibly snap the jaw. With it being closed like this, I think it works. I have another Crystal Skull replica it was from a DVD set, where it was just a smaller Crystal Skull that was with the movie, and that also had a closed design. It works for me. It's, again, modifying the design slightly to make a more manufacturable product over a prop that's only intended to use for one movie. Now, in terms of this actual skull, it's manufactured or built somewhat like the Sankara Stone, where you have an internal thing and then a clear piece on top, and it is mostly clear resin. The fact it's clear resin also means this thing is really hefty. It's like, I'm trying to figure it out. It's about like 8 or 10 pounds, roughly. It's pretty hefty, and actually trying to grip this thing can be kind of tricky. But honestly, it's really impressive, and I think that gives it a kind of cool feel. In fact, all these artifacts do have kind of a real weight to them, which I think is really cool, because they could have been super lightweight, like they could have all been hollow. But this thing is dense. The only thing I don't like too much is the visible seam line, which I think is a seam line. You can see this line running through, and I think it's on the internal side of the resin. For the electronics, it's, again, one of those things, you're not going to notice it as much when it's sitting on a table because of the natural shadow going on. But when you do pick it up, it's a little bit noticeable. But I do like the way that the eyes are done, the face, the whole skull. It just looks fantastic. And yeah, I mean, this thing's going to be a dust magnet on the inside, but all that is hollowed out all the way back, as it should. And that's really impressive. On the bottom, this does take 3 AAAs for its battery pack, and it does have a screw to screw it in, and then you took the switch and you get a light up effect. So it's not heat reactive like the Sankara Stone. You don't have to grab it to turn it on, you just hit the switch, but it looks so cool lit up. And the other cool part is when you turn the switch off, it doesn't immediately click off, it fades out. And that is some pretty cool tech. But let's take a look at the light effect without the big lights on. So let's see how this thing truly glows. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's incredible. Just the way that the light just cascades out of the back of it. And then seeing how cool it is from the front, where you can sort of see like the eye sockets sort of get pupils from the light coming through. Such a cool design, such a great look to it, and such a great replica. It really is. Now this one is the most expensive at $250, so you gotta really love the way the Crystal Skull looks, because yeah, that's a bit of a price. But again, when you compare it to the rest of the line, they're all in the same price scale together. Factor in the fact that it is a Disney product, factor in the fact that it is also a Lucasfilm product, factor in the fact that it's also made for the Disney parks. It's not too bad. I could have seen it, be much more expensive. So, again, it's always going to depend how much do you love the thing that you want to buy. And for me, this was totally worth it. So overall, I love the Indiana Jones movies, and I love these prop replicas. They're, again, not necessarily perfect, but I think that some things were made for the sake of manufacturing, and I can't fault that too much. That's just the nature of, props that were made 1 or 2 or 3 handmade versus, hey, they got to make, hundreds or thousands of these to sell as merchandise. But in terms of prop replicas for Indiana Jones, you can't really go wrong. They're the right size, they're the right feel. I do really like them. So if you are looking for them, like I said, check the Disney parks if you're on either coast, or check Shop Disney. I'm glad that these are going up on Shop Disney as well, because for me, I live sort of close to Disneyland, but it's still, a day-and-a-half drive, and, the whole ticket prices and everything on top of the price of the items. It would never be practical for me to always travel to the parks, so I hope they continue to put them up on Shop Disney, because I do want to keep collecting these artifacts. And yeah, it's just nice to have Indiana Jones stuff again. So honestly, if you are looking for Indiana Jones prop replicas and you see these on Shop Disney, it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. So that does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, hit subscribe and the notification bell to keep up with future uploads. There may be more Indiana Jones stuff on the channel in the future as it comes to exist. Hasbro's doing stuff, and I like reviewing Hasbro stuff, so we'll see what happens. And also on that note, check out Hero Club at hero-club.com for movie news and more, and my awesome graphic designer on Twitter at darkclaw643. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.